Who's next?
Well, the next one is the Robo Bean.
Okay, we're moving into a new category.
Yeah, this is a big one.
Okay.
Yeah, there were a lot of submissions for the Robo Bean.
Wow.
They were
great exercise, though. This is just as valuable as it can be.
Let's see. The first one we'll look at is from Ark. What do you think of Ark's Robo Bean?
My first thought is that you are certainly working on this problem and you are solving it. You're turning it into simple forms. I like it. I have a suggestion for you. Let's take number 17. If you know you've got something there, and that this part is closer to you than this part, and you wrap a rubber band around, just one rubber band tells you that. Then if you want to shave off that plane, you can do that. Watch this. One other rubber band, curved the other way, tells you that you would shave off this plane. Now look what you've got. Snap these rubber bands tight, and you've got a set of X lines. Snap this portion of the rubber band tight, and you've got a Z line. And then the aspect of this, which was there from the beginning, gives you a Y line. So you've got a way to efficiently find those three planes. Now, I pressed hard on those lines, so they're still evident. But it means that you would need less of this kind of thing going on and less of all of that noise going on in there. Let's do it with the pelvis. We know that the top is closer to us than the bottom. So one rubber band gives us that. That only shows us that we're looking down on it. We're also looking so that we see this plane here. We could just draw that plane in there and then run that center line like so, but look what we've got. We've got a height line, that's the Y line. They'll all go the same direction. We've now, if we snap that rubber band tight, we have an X line that's going to go off in that direction, as will all the X lines. And then we can figure that if we were to, well, here we've just got to know what we know about cubes or about blocks and figure that all the Z lines would be going in that direction. That might help you, Ark, so that you don't have to do so much of this scribbling to find it. You can also work lighter lines in the initial stages so that you have less chatter under there.
Okay, next submission is from Jay.
Yes, Jay, you've got the opposite thing going that Ark had going. You are using so few lines that you're not finding the form. And some of these lines, let's take a look at this one. You are not putting preliminary lines in there. You're making quick commitments. And so you get a line that goes like this and goes like this, and the form isn't symmetrical. It wouldn't be a bad idea to rough stuff in there and see if you can get something in there that at least gives you a guide. And once you've said that you've got a corner and you run that width line off there and you run that height line down and you run that depth line back and then you carry through with that, now you will have something that is squared up enough to have control over it. And let me show you what you can do when you have control over it. You can say that if I have this part go down like that, and that my center of the box is there, the other part will land over there on the other side at the same point. Oops, close.
You can just repeat that.
Yeah, let's do that. The other one will land over there. Oops, do it again. I'm going to try it this way. The other one will land over there at the same point. Now you're going to have symmetry in space. Now, here's another thing. You've tapered this box, and you've done it wobbly. This one comes almost straight down. This one comes in here. Here's how you get control of that. If you're going to taper this box, say it's going to come in there and come in there. And now, once we have that, we're going to have this, can we undo? We're going to have this symmetry in perspective again. We can run that back. This is something that may seem pretty finicky, as if it's advanced perspective, But really, it's just keeping track of a depth line and a width line. And now, if we want that to be symmetrical over there, watch what happens. If this were the pit of the neck, we would know that the other side of the pit of the neck is not going to be over here or over here. We're not going to know that the point directionally back behind it is going to run back on this line system. So we'll be able to make that there and know how to build it over to the other side. Watch how the foreshortening is going to happen, because this line is going to go back there. And so we get, again, something that looks like it's been carved up out of something that was aligned. Whereas if I try to do that by saying this line comes down in there and this line goes there, that ends up being a big chunk out of there and not a chunk out of here. Now, the point of this was not to show how to carve up a box. The point was, why not, if you are going to be this assertive with your lines, why not do a little preliminary work to establish some guidelines that are simple guidelines that are not tapered. Tapered lines are not simple lines. Curved lines like that are not simple lines. But height, width, and depth lines, if you have control of them, are simple, and then you can get the complexity gradually, one point at a time. It's the same thing with that pelvis. If you've got a pelvis where you know that the width is that way, and you know that the depth is that way, and you know that the height is that way, and once you've established that clearly, now if you have a triangle of landmark points on the front, and you have another triangle back on the back. Oops, didn't get them just in exactly the right place, but I can scoot them over a little bit. Now I'm seeing those are on the other side of the box. Even an arbitrarily placed curved line in there is going to be more useful than to just go in there and try to get those things on my own and not have any idea whether those triangles are going to line up on X lines as they will automatically over here because I had X lines in mind to guide me. Same way with a great trochanter. If there's one over there, the other one's just got to be on the other side, and we'd be able to tell that as if we were to run a great big tube through there and know that the other one would be on that other side, and we're going to later pull a femur out of that and put condyles on there, and if the other leg is in a different position or back, we know where that hinge joint came from. This was all because we started with a box that was simple and didn't start to go for these curved lines sooner than we earned the right to. But yeah, more precision. You can start freely, but then when you've started freely and you have your guidelines, if you're going to be precise, be precise. Right now, you haven't started, or it looks like you've got a lot of extra, or you don't have a lot of extra lines in there, and you could use some of them, and then once you're committed to them, use them to keep it symmetrical in space.
So what I have an issue with in this drawing actually is that you foreshortened the individual boxes, but you didn't overlap them. This top box would overlap the bottom one more because you're looking, above it, and as they turn towards us like this one is covering this one more. But you have, we could see the entire top plane of that bottom one, and it wouldn't be that way. If we were to draw the front planes, if it was looking directly at us, we would see, something like this for the front plane, and then for the hips, something like this. But if all of a sudden we are looking from the top, now what's going to happen is kind of like what you indicated, and then this one's being foreshortened, so it's not going to be as long. So if you compare the length here and the length here, this one's just a little bit shorter. Total, it's about the same because we're seeing two planes, but the front plane has gotten foreshortened. And then the side, we're seeing a little bit of the side, according to your drawing. According to the reference, not really. I mean, she's looking, this is pointing pretty much right at us. but I'm going to just go with what you've indicated here. Now look what happens. I'm going to overlap much more. So most of this plane will be covered up by the corner. Like that. So now you see how it looks like we're looking down at it and one of them is going over the other. If we were to push this even more, if we're going to look at the top plane, you know, even further, then, you know, we'd see much less of this, and then even less of the other. So this is actually a pretty good exercise. You know, can you push that perspective way further than what you're seeing the model doing?
Let's move on to Philip.
Oh yes, I remember this one. Okay, the main thing I see here is that the rib cage is too wide on all of them, and it's something that you're doing consistently. So it means you need to really break that habit. And what Marshall just said, if you have a bad habit, you replace it with another one. So, well, maybe you should study Ryan's Robo Beans.
That's something.
And his are too thin. Ryan has the opposite problem, and so maybe you guys should study each other's Robo Beans.
It's Jack Sprat and his wife.
What?
You don't know the story of Jack Sprat, who could eat no fat, his wife could eat no lean, and so betwixt the two of them they licked the platter clean? You don't know that?
I don't know what you just said.
It's complementary leanings. You balance each other out.
Okay, so they balance each other out?
Yeah.
So they should make a team and then... Okay. Philip, your rib cage is too thick. Ryan, yours is too thin. It's too long. So
balance each other out.
Proportions for both of you. Next. Johnny Mon. Oh, Johnny, this was a good one too.
Oh wow.
I wanted to point out Johnny's because he has very good line quality.
He does.
Super clean, very thin lines. Thin is a good thing, I think, when you're in your initial stages of your drawing.
That's right.
If you got real thick, dark lines for your gesture or your structure part, you don't have any room to put your details anymore. Your contours and all your construction lines are just taking over the drawing. This is great. This is, I mean, good example of good line quality, and also someone that really understands perspective.
Yeah, look at how he sharpens those corners. David
Rock. So he did one with cylinders. It's not a Robo Bean. It's like a tube bean.
I'm not sure.
I don't think you're constructing these enough. You're trying to draw outlines of the forms. Like with this one here, you've got the ellipse, but you stopped right where the next one overlaps. Just go ahead and go right through that. This one here as well. Just flow right through it and just draw the ellipse, because the shape of your ellipse has suffered here because you tried to draw the contour rather than just moving your shoulder like this and just getting a nice ellipse there, not worrying about if it goes behind another form or not. Just get a nice ellipse on there, then good angles of the outer edges, and then a nice ellipse at the top, and that'll get you a good cylinder. But you're worried about the outline of the whole thing. In here, you drew the side and the top with one line because you just kind of went over the contour. Construct it with very solid structures.
Yeah. Straight lines are just easier to understand, easier to master. Hey, if you like this video, share the wealth. Tell your friends. Post it on your favorite social network. And don't forget to subscribe to the newsletter at Proko.com.
Bye-bye.
It goes